we're going to talk Annihilation tonight, and we're going to talk about it. It's going to be fun, and I think we're going to all have weird ideas, maybe, or maybe we'll agree on it. I don't really know. Yeah. Anybody want to start on fun Annihilation? What you thought of it? We don't really need to go on the plot or anything, but
You know what? Ryan, why don't you start? I want you to start and set the stage with the feel of the movie.
The movie had a very strange feel. It is actually kind of like a serious tone. It started out very serious and a little bit... I don't know. It was very serious, and it turned into a serious, kind of confusing movie about we weren't sure what it was about into a bit of a horror movie. You know, like...
Horror.
And then at the end... It was like a weirder horror sci-fi movie that you didn't know if it was good or bad. It had a strange... It was hard to give it a label of what type of movie it was. But I felt it was way more horror than I expected. You know, like, at the beginning I didn't expect a horror movie at all. And, like, you know the tone of the people in it? Like, all of the actors were kind of, like, real serious and somber. So it had this it was kind of dark, I guess. I'd say it was kind of dark.
yeah.
Fresh from the acting perspective. Like
Yeah.
the place itself was cool, but they made it dark with all the acting and the sort of emotions and stuff like that. It was a tricky one. It was a thinker. I mean, this wasn't like it was a confusing. You weren't confused. You were just more like, huh. It's like a lot of like, that's interesting.
Sure. Yeah. No, I actually spent like half my time at therapy talking about this movie.
Oh, really?
Which is kind of fucked up, but I mean, it makes sense when we talk about it a little bit more. But, yeah, so like it seemed like, I mean, they talk about it a few times that self-destruction is like a big theme of this movie. Like every character is self-destructing in some way, right? And even the little whatever the fucking alien thing is, they're destroying things, kind of, but in order to create more life as well. So, like, is it a negative thing? Who really knows? But, yeah. But so that's why you mentioned those characters. They all had like a self-destructive streak, right?
Right. Yeah.
She's destroying her marriage by cheating on the dude. I don't know, the drug addict, and then the lady who lost her child, and there's just all kinds of people who
Cutter.
Yeah, and so one of the big moments for me that made me was very introspective was if you have this self-destruction, everybody's got it in them. It's human nature, right? This whole self-destructive nature. But what do you do with that? Do you let it destroy you, or do you learn from it and grow from it and try to survive? And obviously that means a lot to me. It's an interesting thing to think about, like that, and that's kind of why we talked about it so much in therapy. I was like, I saw this movie and it really makes you think and stuff and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the one lady that seemed to be the least self-destructive was the paramedic, but what was her deal?
She was
a recovering alcoholic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's the alcoholic, the drug addict, the cancer lady, the marriage lady, and then the child loss. Yeah, and even him. And apparently we're supposed to understand that he found out about her infidelity, and that's kind of why he chose to go into this almost suicide mission, because rather than have to deal with that, he'd rather just move on and kind of even destroy himself, I assume. That's kind of what I got out of it.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure about that. I think she said that to get him to leave, but I don't know if it was true.
I don't know.
It might have been
I
true.
think it was true. Because, I mean, it just makes sense to me. That's why else would you go on this mission kind of a thing that you know?
Didn't Natalie Portman's character ask the cancer lady, like, why did my husband sign up for this suicidal mission? She even said, well, that's something that, you'd have to find out, that you'd have to figure out. And then it's like, through her own introspection, that's when she comes to the conclusion.
Yeah, because she was a psychologist, right? She was basically screening people, and if you had kind of this self-destructive trait, that's the people they were sending through.
Right.
Huh. Oh yeah, I could see that. I didn't. When I watched it, it didn't seem like that was the case, but it was definitely a possibility, and I guess that she did sort of allude to things, like she said, like, well, you should know kind of things.
Yeah.
Where I kind of thought she knew that from, like, scoping her out. I hadn't considered that she knew that from talking to her husband, and, something there. Oh, that's actually
Yeah,
really
because she
interesting.
makes the call, right? She screens them all psychologically and then makes the call if they go in or not.
She was like one of the most fucked up though. That the psychiatrist herself.
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah, she
was
had completely succumbed to the self-destruction thing, right? Like, I'm not going to get better. I'm just done, kind of a thing.
I have terminal cancer, so it doesn't matter what I do. I'm gonna get to the end. I'm gonna either get to the end or I'm gonna die trying.
And she
didn't care.
End, so, yeah. So let's talk about the ending a little bit. What do you guys think happened at the end? What do you think was with her and all that stuff? I mean, it's kind of the lighthouse scene in general has a lot to talk about. If we don't mind spoiling some things, so spoilers if you haven't been spoiled by now.
Well, and what I read after after we saw the movie and read, it's a completely different ending than the book.
Right.
Oh, really?
Actually, what I heard on an interview that the guy said, I didn't even go back and reread the book. It's based on my memories of the book I read like 10 years ago, which is kind of cool in a way. I mean,
that's kind of weird in a way too. It's
but a lot of critics
it's
said
weird.
The movie, by changing the ending of the movie, you made it more interesting. Otherwise, the book kind of lets down at the end.
Okay.
So
okay. I can see that.
Well,
Sometimes books give too much away. They just say,
That's
like,
true.
well, here's what happened.
That's true.
And you're like, well, you go, like, well, I'm glad I know, but there was so much mystery before. And,
Sure.
So
let's talk about the lighthouse scene. The lighthouse scene, that is... Okay. We'll start with her husband. That's her husband that kills himself, basically, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the clone of him comes out. Comes out.
Yes.
Well,
it's a true thing.
Okay.
Definitely. That's what happened, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we know it can teleport, so I'm sure it just fucking teleported around because it teleported in that one scene.
Well, no, he came wandering out. I think it just wandered out, and they thought it was him.
Then? I mean,
no, it didn't. Oh, you mean it got to her house?
Yeah. Without anybody knowing, and then they picked him up after that, assuming that they were watching her house or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wasn't sure if that was the alien.
Sure.
Right.
Or if that was another member of the unit who was mutated, who looked like him, because there's subtle hints throughout that they're kind of mutating themselves.
They're refracting, right? Definitely.
Right, like the EMT's tattoo refracted onto Natalie Portman's character. She did not have that tattoo at the beginning that was on the EMT, and then at the end you visibly see it on her arm.
Yep.
So that's where I was like, okay, and Natalie Portman, as the biologist, is like, when she's testing her blood, she's seeing these mutations take place.
That's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up real quick, just because she's literally looking inside herself, and that's when she has her flashback of her infidelity.
Right.
She's looking. That's kind of a cool little metaphor. Right. She's literally looking inside her cells, and then she's looking internally and seeing her faults, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. So at first, I wasn't sure if that was like another party member or if it was the alien. How many aliens landed or crash landed? I guess.
Well,
we don't, or are they created and mutated by that table in that tunnel structure?
That's kind of what I kind of figured they were just producing, like, based on this refraction. Because it's weird, his accent's super, super thick at the end, and I assume that's just from one of his party members. Like, because he's fucked up. Like, he's talking about how he thought he used to be a man named Kane, but he doesn't remember anymore. And I assume that's his mind just being destroyed.
Right.
But, I mean, it's interesting that you guys have a different opinion on that. It's interesting. Okay.
I think it's a creature all the way.
Yeah, I kind of do as well. But and he's so the water at the table was interesting. At the beginning, he has in her house, he's touching the glass of water, right, that she gives him, and the water molecules are like going up. They're like doing this weird thing up the side of the glass.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool.
Okay, so that's them. What about her?
Because then we see the blood.
Yes, so what about her? She has this entire fucking weird sequence. What do you think about her? Was that her?
I truly think that it is her, but she's mutated enough from being inside there that she's no longer who she was originally.
Okay.
And that's where she questions, are you Kane? Well, I don't think so. Are you Lena? I don't think so. It's like I've changed enough that I'm not that same person. Which I think kind of fits into the fighting through the self-destructive behavior where you are a different person now.
Sure. Okay. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I thought she was basically eaten by the thing, but I do think that just like it was refracting pieces of people into other people and plants and stuff. I think it took on much of her characteristics, like truly, and fragments of her memory, and it's like a weird interspersing. But I think it was that thing with her stolen essence, if you will.
Yeah, sure.
And she made up a story, and she kind of figured out as she went, and same thing, basically a similar thing to the other guy. I don't know if she killed herself or not. I don't think she did.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say because it's hard to tell because the final scenes in the lighthouse is that inflammatory grenade going off, and then the creature going down the tunnel and lighting everything on fire. Right. So is there two of them then, or
yeah? I don't know. I had a different thought of it since I don't know. Like when they touched and it started to form her, I kind of thought that she was giving that self-destruction aspect to the creature itself, because it's refracting her self-destruction onto the creature, and that's actually why it burned everything. And I also think that it did it on purpose in order to make everyone think it's actually dead. But in essence, it's just kind of living in both of them now and can eventually come back. It's a really good thing to do. It knows it has to kill itself to survive, and then so it's going to be in her because we see it in her eyes, kind of, and it's definitely in him because I think he's a clone. And eventually, they're going to make whole little baby refractor things that can kind of go do other things. That's what I got. I thought it was kind of an interesting little metaphor for killing itself.
Yeah, that was interesting. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
I think it started with talking about cancer. She started with here's what cancer does,
Definitely.
right?
Cancer's another good one, yeah.
Yep, basically the thing lands, starts off small, nothing huge is happening, and it becomes growing and growing and doing, as it got bigger, it did more and more radical things that took place. Basically, it's a big cancer metaphor. The big alien thing, I think, is a big cancer metaphor, right? And humans went in there, and they've been trying all different ways. They've been like, let's study this cancer. Well, we can't get rid of it, right? We can't get rid of it. And I just think they didn't beat it. They pushed it in remission. Basically, they're burning it out. They burned the cancer out as much as they could, but it's in remission just a little bit because it's still there. There's still a piece. You're basically still. It seems like once you've had cancer, the chance of you getting cancer is really good. So
right, because it's hard to eliminate everything.
I was like everything. So it's I think that it's still there, but it's seemed to be not high. It's it's almost giving them a second chance to be better than they were. So that's what I thought was interesting. I thought that it's we can be okay, we both know we're not the same as what we were.
Right.
Does that mean we can't be better than? We should try and be better than we were before.
Well, that's another question, right? Does it matter? Does it matter if it's truly her, and if it doesn't even know if it's truly her or not? And same thing with him.
Right.
Because it did seem like he had a malicious intent. It seemed like he woke up and he's like, I don't think I'm that guy. But I don't also know what else I am. It wasn't like he was thinking, it didn't seem like he was like, oh, I'm hiding and I'm waiting my time. It honestly feels like it's a thing that just kind of just creates, and because that's what life does, right? And then it lets life take over and kind of keep creating.
Yeah.
Which thing are you talking about? Didn't seem malicious.
Him.
You
Kane,
mean the
Kane at the end?
Oh yeah, Kane. He just seemed confused.
Same thing with her. Yeah.
But that's the lesson I took away from the cancer. Was another theme I think that went through was a statement of cancer doesn't want anything. It doesn't.
Yes.
It's not. It doesn't. Isn't trying to do something.
Right. It's not evil.
Is.
Right?
Yeah. It just is what it is, and what it is does a certain thing, without maliciousness, like you said. And I think I felt like at the end, I feel like that thing did something different. What was its reason for it? I think that almost the point might be that it didn't have a reason, which I actually think that mixes well with some of the other themes of saying, like, when you're talking about the self-destructive nature and things like that, and then you're searching for a reason, and then it sort of was like, well, we're just not even going to give you a reason.
Right.
Like humans do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's not a reason, and look, there's not a reason, and we're going to emphasize that by, like, this thing just does stuff, and
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Let's say they can't stop it. Let's say that everyone they send in there can't stop it, and it continues and it spreads around the entire Earth, and it basically refracts everything, and then that it's just basically a new world. Does that make it an evil world, or does that make it? No, it's just different, and it's actually, some might say it's better. It takes elements of many different things and combines them to create life. I mean, it sucks that you gotta destroy life to create life. That you could see that as a negative thing, but it's actually very natural. So, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's an alien without an evil or good like persona, which is interesting. You don't really get a lot of that in Hollywood.
Right.
Yeah. And even as an alien, like, it's alien is the best word for it, but like,
I guess extraterrestrial. It comes from somewhere else, right?
But it's like a weird thing. It's like not even necessarily alive. It's almost, you could almost somewhere between an alien and a phenomenon. You know what I mean? Like, it's so
it seems
abstract.
It seems to have an intelligence, but yeah, you're right. Not the intelligence we're thinking of. I know what you're saying. Yeah,
I agree with you. That's probably the best word we have, but it's a weird alien. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right. And if I think about it more, it's if they're both of this phenomenon, alien, extraterrestrial thing, whatever, they're both kind of an Adam and Eve kind of thing.
Sure.
You could say like that was like a new Eden.
Yeah, definitely.
That was, destroyed.
Yeah.
And I still swear, like, that sticker on the back that said his name started with a C on one shot and K the next shot.
Well, let's talk about cool moments. I mean, Dave, you pointed out the one that I wasn't positive on the way home, but I thought was, but I wasn't positive, was the kind of cloning of the animal.
Like that deer that just stood there,
right?
There. Was that deer behind it?
And then all of a sudden,
or did they split?
I think it's kind of cool that it splits, and because then they do the exact same thing for a few steps before taking off.
And then they change. So it's basically like saying that the cell split, and then it was like, oh, we're similar. Okay, now we're on our own paths, just a little bit.
Yeah, I think that was really neat. I really do. The same thing with the plant humans. The plant humans
were cool.
Those are neat looking.
Yeah. The fucking bear was horrifying, but also kind of cool, like in a horrifying way.
Right.
And the crocodile was also cool.
The bear was fucking horrible.
It was a fucking nightmare. That was where it went full on horror, right, for a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean.
Plus, when the paramedic went crazy, those were both. That was like full on horror time.
I think that it went full horror when they were like, okay, holding that guy down in the pool and like cutting open his guts, and it's like eels and some just swarming around in there.
So, what do you guys think about him? I mean, that guy that died in there, he like grew and split and stuff, and I don't know what that's supposed to represent a refraction of. I assume his body kept refracting or something, because normally bodies don't do that. Grew off the side.
I think he took on the aspect of either like some sort of plant or some sort of animal, you know what I mean? And like, so then he started like at the end it looked almost like he bloomed into something.
Yeah, I guess.
Right.
So I don't know what it was exactly, because it also could have been like a snake or something, but I think he took on enough parts where he like his body was like, all right, time to change shape.
Yeah, no, I can see that. It seemed very rock-like. That's what confused me. Like, it would be cool if it was like a plant thingy. It just seemed very rock-like, which was weird.
Maybe it was like that fungus stuff, because there was a lot of those fungus things.
Oh, there's a good picture of it.
Yeah.
I guess there is some kind of like, is there green matter can I see green
matter? Yeah, there's definitely
a little bit of green.
Okay, yeah, there's like some plant kind of things, but it looks calcified like in the middle. I don't know. It's cool looking either way.
Right.
Oh no.
Like if you were to do that in put it in a museum, it would be like you get like a bunch of money.
It's true. The shore was cool, like the light and the water and the sand refracting together, kind of a thing. I
Right.
thought making the crystals, that was neat. I like that.
Yeah, the crystals were.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's, I mean, it's weird that the reason I like this movie, and it was kind of a downer movie if you think about it, right? I mean, Ryan's right, it had a downer feel to it. But I took a lot out of it that I think is healthy, and that's the whole self-destruction thing, because I wrestle with that all the time. Like, what do you want to do with your life now that you feel your life is shitty and there's a giant wound on you? What do you do with it? Do you fill it with light? Do you fill it with normal everyday shit? Because there's a lot of shit in the world you can fill yourself with if you just look on the news, right? And how do you reconcile that? So it's cool that, to me anyways, that art could help influence me a little bit.
That's cool.
Adam, what are your thoughts?
I loved it.
Do you feel like you've seen the movie now? You haven't listened to a goddamn thing we said, Ed.
No, I'm listening and I'm just like flabbergasted because I have no fucking clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, I figured that. You can't really follow it unless you've seen it, right? I mean, we're just saying random shit. So
it's
not
so abstract that it
Right.
would be hard to follow.
What are the other movies this guy's done that you guys were talking about? I mean, that we can compare him to a little bit.
The Village?
The director?
Ex Machina.
Yeah.
Deus Ex Machina,
Yep, with the robots and stuff like that. He wrote,
and that, sorry to interrupt, but that had a lot to do with what it is to be human as well, and kind of what it is to be an individual, which is interesting. I should go back and watch that movie. I bet I forgot about it. I've only seen it once. So.
Sounds like he was an influence on Westworld, maybe?
Well, Westworld is old, dude. That thing is old, buddy. That was like in the 70s when that came out. He wrote 28 Days Later. That was his thing. He wrote Sunshine. He wrote he writes a lot of books.
Oh, Sunshine, that's right. That's what we were comparing it to, the whole sci-fi, horror, sci-fi.
Right.
Yeah. He does, all of those movies have like a fairly serious undertone and a little bit of a darkness. Not that they're dark, but like there's a serious tone to them, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's seems to be a pattern.
Yeah, definitely.
That's kind of cool.
Okay, any parting thoughts, or are we done with this?
Overall, I liked it. I thought it was really interesting. It's if you're looking for a movie that gives you answers at the end, this is not the movie.
That's true.
It's also one of those movies I think I want to watch again. Like, I'd really love to watch it again to catch those little things that you don't notice, like Dave was talking about.
He's blind throughout the whole movie.
Yes, I'm Mr. Glass.
Yes, Adam.
I missed the glass. Fuck that movie.
Cool. Thanks for indulging us, and I guess we'll move on to a different topic.